I'm Lucy Smith and I'm here today with John Ogunmuyiwa, whose film Mandem was shortlisted for the Best British Iris Prize this year. John, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So your short film Mandem, set in London, follows two young black men who are partners in many senses of the word. They get up to shady dealings together. They spend most of the days with each other, and throughout you're sort of playing with this idea of there being more to their relationship than friendship. Could you start off with what influenced the film and why did you feel that you needed to tell this story?
Essentially there was working on a project with a couple friends, and we had these it was just a series of shorts, and then we were just kind of it's all like looking into South London and just the different stereotypes. There's a whole thing in London about if you're from South, you're weird or you're crazy, or it's just a magical place. So we had these ideas of just telling all these different stories, but with a certain kind of level of nuance. And this kind of story kind of came up through just this idea of, sometimes with shows like Top Boy, which, I'm a big fan of, sometimes when it comes to, I guess, like dealing and people who are kind of doing, say, necessarily shady things, when it's black men, it's usually always kind of gang affiliated, or really kind of the stakes are high. And so much, it's not always the case with, like, there's another show in America where there's a weed dealer and it's really nice and sweet, but he's still kind of selling, and they're just selling weed. And
right, challenging that stigma against it.
Exactly, and it's just a job. So then that was kind of a look into, okay, so it's just a job, and sometimes it's not as glamorous, it's quite boring, you just travel. And so this idea kind of stemmed to two kind of friends hanging out, just kind of being, it's like mundane, and just going about their day. And then this thought kind of popped into, okay, we have these two characters who I guess are quite stereotypical in terms of, these hood guys. And then it was just, a question was like, what if their relationship wasn't what we thought it was? And that kind of was like, oh, whoa. It made me think, oh, whoa, that's a bit weird. But then I was like, wait a minute, that's not actually weird, because it's not really anything really. It's just, it's a perception thing, because you don't really see these two types of characters interact or have this kind of relationship, or if we presented all these different things to lead to what, swapping out, for example, a man, two men, or a man and a woman, and how they interacted, but swapping them with these two hood guys, would we still allow ourselves to just see, a really nice kind of relationship? And then it's just kind of a look into friendship as well, because at the end of the day, relationship is friendship. And so that's kind of how we got to kind of Mandem, essentially. Just a series of questions.
Yeah, and where do those lines cross?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a question, can we question the audience into how we perceive certain characters? Again, put them in different contexts, whether that's location or I guess stereotype and relationships, which is kind of hence these guys.
I actually thought this was one of my favourite short films I've watched this year, actually, because I actually thought,
thank you.
No worries, the fact that it's a short film, you've used the format so well, because hint at things and you don't over explain, and that means we're left thinking, and it means it becomes bigger than it is. And I feel like that's perfect for a short film format. Were you aware that this was going to be a short film from the start and that you were going to play with that?
Yeah, it was always going to be a short film, and I think it's a day in the life. And the part of the rationale is, again, their relationship is not a big deal for them, and I guess sometimes it's a shock for the audience, because it's, again, perceptions. And so for the film, it's not really, it's almost meant to be a day in the life in their job and a day in life in their relationship, which isn't always, again, with the jobs, it's not always high stakes, and it's not always drama. This is just kind of the day to day. And so I guess for the format, it's meant to be quite jumping in, no context, because you're just meant to catch up. Yesterday, stuff has happened, and tomorrow stuff will happen, but you're just with them for this period of time, and you're just kind of meant to go, and hopefully there's enough information for you to not be lost in their day. And a part of it, I guess, like speaking, thinking as I'm speaking, a part of it is just about this can't say the word, mundaneness.
Mundanity?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah. Mundanity of everything, their job, their relationship, and just that kind of their life. So yeah, for the short form, I think it was really very useful, because you're just in and you're out one day.
Using like that idea of mundanity is interesting, because you were saying a little bit before, so it's this idea that being queer is normal, so show the normal life, and you don't necessarily, some people are quite, characters in their queerness, but you don't necessarily have to show that. Yeah,
exactly. I think it's exactly that. And I think I guess there's space for, especially now, I think there's space to just show loads of different representations, because there's not one thing that represents one. There's not one type of black person, and there's not one type of queer person. There's not one type of relationship. And I think with this one, I wanted to try and hit maybe, or talk to, or just explore that other queer relationship, which I don't always see on the screen. In a sense.
I think so. The thing about this is a different sort of queerness we're seeing, but it's also, there's the idea that being black and queer hasn't historically had loads of screen time, and hopefully going forward, more representation of all sorts of people will be shown. Do you think film is a really good way to do that? More so than anything else?
100%. I think because we all watch things together, but we internalize things individually, which I think, and we interpret things differently, because again, like in the process of kind of making the film and coming up and writing it and everything, at first it didn't stem from, oh, these people or these types of characters exist. It just felt, oh, this is just the story you kind of want to tell. But then as you're going through it, you're like, oh wait, no, yeah, obviously this is real life. Like, the relationship is real, and these characters are real people. So it can't be, in the world of all these hood guys and all these kind of dealers, you're telling me that there's not one queer like dealer who's just out there, really. And you're just like, well, no, that's impossible. And so then even I showed a couple friends from work, and this woman, she's just like, yeah, that's her friend, who's not really actually, he hasn't come out to other people, but she's like, that life that these guys are living, he's lived that life, and that's right. And again, it's like, we're all watching it, but for her, she's like, oh, I know this person, it's a real person, and if he were to watch it, he would probably
he's probably not seen himself on screen.
Exactly. And I think that's what's really good about film, because again, that's something that we can all discuss, or I can go away, or he can go away, or she can go away and think about, and just think, oh, okay. So that's why I feel maybe film more so than others, because
I like that. On a more technical side, how was it doing things like from the ideas to the funding to finding who to work with? Like, how was the process of doing all that?
So I got into this, applied for this NFTS diverse scheme, and it was interesting. I just thought it was a scheme for, to me, it's really weird. Like, it sounds weird as I say it, but I thought it was a scheme to help women in film, because of the way that the questions were written out. Okay. It was really like skewed towards the female side. So I wasn't going. Sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry.
That's okay. I wasn't going to apply. But then one of my friends who's a guy applied. But then I got in. But funny enough, I was the only guy on the course, which made me think kind of strange. But there was about 5 of us, and it was meant to be a 2-week workshop, just kind of like brief introduction to the NFTS, and then they said, okay, we'll give you some money to make a film, and providing that you use our students as like crew, which they're all proficient, they're all sick, and they're all really, really good. Actually working with a couple of them like now still on another project. And so yeah, that was kind of how it got some of that, the funding. But it did get really, really tricky actually, casting, which was quite an interesting story, I think.
Why is that?
Well, I guess like for the cast, I think maybe there's a lot of social and cultural factors for a lot of, I guess, like, and stigmas for a lot of black men, especially when it comes to, I guess, like the queer aspect. So we were having a lot of guys get the script and going to agents, and they're going, and at first, because this is like my second film, so someone said, yeah, just send it to agents, and at first, they're just like, oh yeah, whatever, we'll have a look, but then they had a read, and they're like, oh my gosh, X would love it, or this person, I've got a person who would love it. And most times I think a lot of black actors like to play people who are familiar sometimes, because you don't always get to play that cousin or that person that you grew up with. And so there was a lot of like, yeah, this is really cool, I have a read, like the idea. And then it got to the end where there's a kiss. And a lot of people were just like, oh, this project's not for me. Or, oh, I think they're taking time out and whatnot. And I think it's a lot to do with, things that were being said were just, I guess, oh, I don't know how my friends would feel about me doing this, or my family. And so it was quite challenging, because I guess it's like, I can kind of see the cultural things, but it's not me to say it's not a big deal, but yeah, it was a bit tough. And so then working with guys like Stevie, who played the character Malcolm, who was he really liked the idea, and I think he kind of also helped bring it, make that moment at the end as grounded as possible, just through the questioning, because he was quite like, oh, I really like what this is trying to say and what this is trying to do, but he hasn't done a kiss on stage or on screen before, and so he was like, but about this kiss, and that question of what kind of kiss is it, because I just wrote it's a kiss, and that kind of
that's kind of the whole point of the film, what kind of kiss is it?
exactly. And it's a bit of apprehension, but also someone he's like, I've gotten all these tools that I want to kind of like learn and push myself as an actor. And so then we're there figuring out, okay, what kind of kiss is this, and you're like, wait a minute, it doesn't need to be like make out, because that's not the point. The point isn't to say, yo, oh my gosh, this is they kissed. I think the part of it is they're in a relationship.
It's part of their normal interaction. Yeah,
exactly. This is every day for them. So it's not necessarily always a big moment. And then that kind of evolved into, or maybe instead of one kiss, it's two kisses. And then, like I think like Bradley, who was the other actor, he was just like, yeah, okay, I'm super on board. And then it was quite, it was a bit, everyone, well, thanks to the crew, and Emily, who was like the producer, Emily Everdy, she was kind of made it happen. It was quite ambitious. It was like we had 4 days. It was 4 days, but we had 12 locations. So it was,
rushing about.
Literally. Which was,
That reaction from the actors about the end of the script is kind of testament to almost why you needed to do it in a way. I was wondering, have you shown this to much audience yet? Have you had any specific feedback about, getting to the ending? Has anyone sort of talked about it in a way where it unsettled them, or has it been okay feedback?
Like it's been, I guess it's kind of been, I think overall it's been positive, because I think a lot of the feedback or reactions have been, because the goal is for you to check yourself and question. Again, like I think of affairs, like why are we so nosy to other people's relationships? But these are they're normal relationships. This is just kind of standard. And so for you to think, oh, that's strange, you have to really think about it. Like, what's strange about it? Nothing.
Would feedback of people being a bit unsettled be quite good feedback then, because it's made them think?
100%. So I actually put it out on it's on this YouTube channel. They're really cool channel.
So your whole film's on a YouTube channel?
Yeah,
amazing.
It's on a YouTube channel, and they do loads of kind of short films. They have a huge reach, but I guess a lot of the target demographic, I guess I specifically wanted it to go out on there because I thought it would be, it's the kind of space where the demographic know the world, but it'd be interesting to get that feedback on how they perceive these characters. And so what was really interesting was it went out in there, and overall you could see it in the comments, like it did really shock some people, but it was really interesting just seeing the conversations that were being had and how, again, like a lot of people came through levels of understanding. So a lot of people understood and really got it, and so some people who didn't always get it, it was kind of almost like policing itself in a weird way. And it was like, that's kind of the point, because sometimes, especially with films and short films, we end up showing it to it's like self-serving,
like-minded people.
Exactly. And I think
brilliant to get the conversation going.
Yeah. And it was really, I guess, there wasn't, there's some comments that are quite wild, but like overall you can see there's a definite understanding in terms of, whoa, all right, okay, I think I get it now, or I needed to think about that, and maybe that's now changed my perception, which is kind of that was the goal, really.
I think in this film you're dealing with hidden queerness a lot. Like, these guys don't really have any need to tell the outside world what's going on, and it doesn't look like they're going to anytime soon. Did you feel like you were representing unheard voices? Was that a specific task for you?
I guess it felt like showing the kind of, I guess it's not necessarily the voices, because I guess it's like I don't know if I can carry and say, I'm talking for you, but it's there's people that I've met and like I've experienced and hung out with, and I've met through friends of friends, and just I like to observe things. So I observe I sit on the way here, just standing and watching Cardiff. Like, I was like, okay, cool.
Were you on the train on the way here?
Yeah,
nice.
People watching. Took some photos. Not creepy, promise. But and so seeing some of how the people that I've met and I known who are queer in their relationships, it was just like, oh, wait a minute, how come when I'm watching TV and stuff, your relationship isn't shown like this, like you and your boyfriend and how you guys interact? It's not necessarily what I'm seeing on the screen, and so then that was kind of one of the driving forces. Just kind of, all right, I'd like the idea if anything you make, you kind of want it to resonate with people. But I think in the creation process, it was kind of trying to just bring to life, or the experiences, observations of these realities I think I've seen. Because it's like, okay, if it's a reality for you, it must be a reality for some other people. But I do really, again, like, as you make it, new things and new thoughts come, and you're like, it's quite, there are people who are this speaks to, I guess, that we might never ever meet or might never ever tell anyone, but I think it's still important to tell those stories.
Do you think, because in a lot of senses, they might want to hide their relationship, the characters in your film, but they also kind of need to because of the community they live in. It feels like there's very little space for queerness within it. There's a lot of sort of aggression and ideas of what it is to be a man. And do you think there's ever any wiggle room for that? Like in the future, will queer people be able to exist more in societies that are perhaps more sort of, this is, you know, focused on this is what your sexuality must be and this is who you are? Can you see a future where these tensions are sort of released a bit?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Like, I think, because again, a part of me on with these guys are that I feel the characters, it's quite ambiguous whether like people know or they don't, because these guys are so like, they're so confident in themselves. Like, he's not like a serious guy, but you know, they do their job. Like they like, okay, I'm into you. Like, they're quite confident. Like, okay, this is what we're on. Okay, because there's a whole scene where, you know, they go and fight someone, which is, I guess, a bit of a stereotype. But that they're just like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And so I really hope to kind of internalize that into even their sexuality. So it's quite like they're just like, this is what we're doing. I'm not really having to focus on what's going on in the world or how people are perceiving us. So I guess it's a question of like, they're not necessarily screaming, but no one's asking them. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's maybe that's an interesting thing of when someone asks, so what's going on, or what's your relationship, then that's an interesting, I guess that would be like a different film, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
I guess you got moments though, like they're sitting down to eat and he's got an eyelash on his cheek and he says, come on, get it for me. And there's like a hesitation there. So there are sort of like, there must be a few pressures coming from the outside for them to not.
I guess, 100%. Because even the reason why they're, that guy is like, you know, people start speaking, but then I guess it's like in this world, people speaking about them, again, because they're confident people, it's not necessarily like, oh, we need to show bravado for the sake of it. It's
right.
We can't, the kind of line of work we're in, it also needs a certain level of respect. So then it's like, if you're saying anything, or even if you're just saying, oh, you're a loser, they need to kind of go and kind of, I guess, like, sort that out. So there are pressures, and I think
stay up on their level.
Because I think that's probably some of the reality of the world, that there are certain pressures where you don't feel, or one doesn't feel like they're allowed to, they're having to maintain something. And I think that's kind of the balance. Hopefully that might change. Oh, I think that could definitely change, just in terms of how we view things.
Yeah. It'd be good for it to change in a way, because as you were talking, I was thinking too, there's a danger of like dropping out of everything you know and the life you lead and the community you're in. Like, that's a really hard choice to make sometimes. So hiding it a little within that context is sometimes their best option.
Yeah, and I think so for a lot of people. I guess, because you can't, and that's what, I guess maybe that's where we want to get to, don't we? Like, where you don't necessarily have to change, but maybe the world around you changes, because that's the problem, isn't it? Like, it's like you have to drop your community, or maybe, I don't know, it's bad. I'm not saying you should go be a dealer, but you know, that's what you're doing in the meantime, and that's what you kind of know. But the world, like, you don't want to, it's not fair for someone to just give up their whole life to change, which I guess a lot of people are really, this is a current thing, isn't it? Yeah,
we're made up of a lot of things, and you can't expect someone to drop everything for the one thing.
So it's a tricky one, but I think I definitely feel like perspectives are being open, and you know, we can get to an understanding, because again, part of it is, I think it's you're not necessarily defined by, let's say, who you go to bed with, and that's got nothing to do with, sometimes it depends, like sometimes, you know, you want to make a statement, or you want it to be about that. But you know, for some certain guys or certain people, especially with this case, that's what they do, or who their relationship. That's got nothing to do with who they are, and like, well, not who they are, but what their job is and what not.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't have to
Absolutely.
be like, and I think maybe if we can get to that point where, you know, not everything has to correlate or merge.
Definitely let the world be as it is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I had a look at your website, and you're a photographer too.
Oh,
That's right, isn't it? Yeah. And
Yeah.
everyone should check out your website.
Oh,
There's
thank
some
you.
beautiful stuff up there. But I was wondering, how does photography influence your filmmaking and vice versa? Was it photography first as well?
Yeah. Well, I started with a camera. I think I like it's the composition, I guess, and the framing and the lighting. But well, to be honest, I really just like photojournalism. I like also at the moment I quite like fashion and portraiture, but what really got me into photography is just like documentation, and just kind of like documentary and being like a fly on the wall, because again I like observing things.
Is it people and what they do you're interested in? That's what you're looking for?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think I was thinking about it the other day with like photography. I feel I don't always necessarily like to, like, you naturally compose things, but for example, if I'm taking a photo of you, instead of me saying, oh, look, I'll do it, oh, maybe look here, move here a bit, but I'm trying to find the moment.
Stop directing and just watch.
Yeah. And I think how that translates, but in film, I guess I try to create the moment, but then it's kind of drawn from like that, trying to.
That's interesting. Do you work backwards then a little bit? Like, that's the image I want. How do I get people to do that? Or...
Yeah, exactly. And it's like some photos evoke feelings. And so then if I say when I'm writing something like this one, the feeling that I wanted, there was a feeling that I was trying to capture, like this authenticity, this realness. And so then, okay, so now when we translate that to photography so now we translate like that to cinematography, whatnot. Okay, cool. Sometimes 4:3 that crop, it feels timeless, and so then we're not going to shoot anamorphic, because that as a cinematic quality is going to be a bit more handheld.
Did you say anamorphic? What does that mean?
It's basically like a specific type of lens, which if I get correctly, it compresses. It's like, you know, when you have different aspect ratios.
Yeah.
And it's like
you have your telly, you got the rectangle and the
and you got the bars. That's usually anamorphic, when what it does, it takes I'm going to recite a practice. It takes the image, which would be kind of a square format, and it's compressed, so it's squished in, and then what it does, there's like another lens, and it presses it down, so then it ends up going kind of wide. And usually it gives like a nice, it just makes things look really nice, like really nice and pretty, and like beautiful. It's got like this, I don't know how to describe the quality, but when you see the images, you can usually tell. So most times or not, you see films and they're that, you be like, oh, it has a level of distortion as well, because it's naturally distorting the image. And so when you're kind of now trying to recreate feelings, it's all like get into the technical aspect of, okay, so then this is the feeling and that's the moment and whatnot. So then how do we bring that to life through the technical, the cinema? And, you know, then you start, it's handheld. It's a bit more kind of rough. We're feeling like we don't necessarily, like, I don't mind having, like, I wrote moments of like, okay, we talk about this and this and this, and then we sat down and it's like, okay, you don't like the music, you like the music, okay, let's go. And so then the dialogue feels a bit more natural, and and so then I guess that's kind of what I pulled from, I guess, like photography, because you can just throw your camera anywhere and kind of find a nice moment. But as with film, you have to, I guess you're creating it, but then you can also create that feeling, like sorry,
don't worry, you can
turn this off. Yeah, but I do really enjoy both. I think at the end of the day, it's just stories and people.
Yeah. When did you first pick up a camera?
Do you
remember?
Yeah, it's really weird. I think maybe when I was like 6. Like I think I've actually still got it. It's this old Practica. Like and I guess it's like I'm Nigerian, and so when you get old enough to do things, you just like when you can, as soon as you're old enough to wash the dishes. So don't ever, if you're like 4 and you're like, oh, I want to wash the dishes for Bants, then it's like, oh, so now you can wash the dishes.
The rest of your life.
Okay, cool, that's good. So like with birthday parties and whatnot, I think my mum really, she, in a weird way, she's like a documentary. Like she'd take pictures, and it's like, you wouldn't be like, oh, these are the most amazing pictures. They're just pictures of
memories,
yeah. But it's like a lot. And so we'd always document stuff, and then it became my job to be like, I was like, I can do it. And then I could do it, and then, after the first couple of rolls, they're like, oh, these aren't bad. So, okay, now you can, birthday parties, you can take the photo.
Nice. Have you got a load of family albums of your pictures then? Or?
Yeah. It's all mixed up. So if I'm not in it, I'm probably took it.
Nice.
And so, that's kind of, so I'm just shooting since then, really. And I think that's probably where the documentary kind of observational, because it's just life. And then I think with that, trying to compose stuff now in like portraiture, that kind of has a similar mirror to film, where you're trying to create things, but still want things to feel natural, I guess.
Would you ever go back to your family for portraiture again? Or do you still take pictures of them? Or have you sort of moved past that?
No, like, it's really weird. That's a really good thing. I'm going to do that. Like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, you just end up moving so far away that, and just, like, the people and the things I guess I should be taking photos of, I'm not, which I think I definitely will. Thanks for that reminder. It's
You're welcome. That's on me. Yeah.
No, I think it's quite important, especially when you've learnt so much, and then to go back and kind of actually apply it to where it started from. I think that's really nice.
Yeah. Do you have like next projects on the horizon? Do you have anything going on right now? You mentioned you're working again with some people that you worked on with Mandem, is that right? Or
yeah. We're working on a short film. It's another one. We're actually shooting like maybe in a week or so, and it's about the high street and how the high street's a magical place.
That's a new sentence. I've not heard that one before. The high street's a magical place.
Yeah, or like I just think it's like a weird place where you just see loads of different types of people, especially where I live. It's just, you'd see, it's like an eclectic melting pot, because you see students, but then you see old African, like say Nigerian, West African women, but then you see, you'd have a pastor who's preaching about this Bible verse, but then there's the guys walking to the mosque, and then you'd have homeless people, you have addicts, which you think, and sometimes they're doing weird things, like not wearing trousers, and you're like, oh, that's crazy, but then it's inherently tragic. You're just like, wait a minute, that's not really, you're like, oh, that's wild, but then you're like, whoa, that's, something's not right. And then, because why would they be doing that? Then you have breakups, you have drama, and I just think it's a place where it's like anything can happen, because I've seen some mad stuff on the high street. We have a guy in Croydon. He's not really mad. He's just this guy called Bernard, and I think his name's Bernard, but that's what we all know him as.
Okay.
And he's this West Indian guy. And when shops used to play music, he'd dance outside the shop, and like kick his leg up really high, and like he'd just be dancing. Then they stopped playing music out loud, so then he started bringing his own speakers, and he just becomes a part. He's a part of the high street. Like you just know him. Like sometimes you see him, you be like, yo, what? Like, but he's just dancing. He's on his own thing, and it's just speaking to different people from different parts of the city. They have similar people, like this there's a cat person, or I've seen a
Yeah,
ninja,
yeah.
and it's
I think most cities have something of that, yeah. And
Yeah.
people don't really know about them, but they bring some sort of like crazy joy to stuff sometimes. And like,
yeah.
are you gonna be talking to these people then? Is it it's going to be a fictional?
So it's a fictional.
Okay.
So taking these elements of it's basically set in this African hair salon, looking out through the window. So it's almost like a fixed camera,
Okay.
like a screen within a screen, and it's kind of just taking all these elements of the high street and like the yummy mummies and the people who lived there for 60 years, the older generation, and just showing all these kind of the things that are funny but inherently aren't, and breakups, and then there's something mad that happens, which I won't give away.
Oh yeah, no spoilers.
No spoilers. But the whole beauty of it is that everything always goes back to normal. So you might come home and there's been a car accident, but I come home just maybe an hour later. You'll be like, oh, did you see the accident? I'll be like, what accident? Because it's all cleared up. And that's kind of no matter what happens, everything always just goes back to normal. Which I thought that's where the magic comes in for me, because sometimes you just see weird stuff if you see something weird in the morning, you go to work, do your day, get to the shower, maybe at like 11:07, you might be like, oh yeah, that was that thing I saw. But it's just like you just went about your day and you kind of forgot about it, which I think is like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I like that. It sounds like it's going to help people pay more attention to the stuff going on around them in a more focused way. Yeah.
I just think melting pot, and just kind of, so I don't know, at the moment maybe I like the idea of things that seem mundane, but I think they're actually really interesting.
The closer you look, yeah.
Yeah.
Really want to see that, so I hope I hope it all goes well with that.
Me too. I hope it goes well.
I have got a final question for you. So everyone is watching Iris from their homes this year. Do you have like a preferred way of watching? What snacks do you have beside you? How would you get the room going? Would you have a group of friends? Would you have your nan? Like, how would you get watching? Watching
at home? It depends. I think you need to kind of know whether if you are a talker, you might want another talker. But if you're not a talker, you just might want to might want to have a little preview for yourself.
Good advice. Are you a talker?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not either. No. I banish my friends sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been known to subconsciously ignore people. I was watched Pirates of the Caribbean, and the person came out of the cinema and they were like, oh, why did you didn't say anything? I was like, well, you talking to me?
Why were you so angry?
Yeah, well, exactly. I was just like, I did not hear anything that you were saying because I was in there. So yeah, I'd say set up the environment, get to nice, I don't know, if it's a nice day, have a nice bev, nice little, I like a beer sometimes, or you can have a nice, or water. It's really weird, the extreme there, but a water, a beer, those are my two.
Water's great. Yeah. When I was growing up, all my friends wanted like Coke and pop and stuff, and my friends' mums would be like, "What do you want, Lucy?" And I'd be like, "Water." And they loved me. And I'd be like, easy, cheap.
You're ahead of the game. Yeah.
Exactly.
And just speakers, good speak. Turn up the volume.
Yeah.
Comfy chair, and space to get into your favorite position.
Nice.
Then, that's what I'd say.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed asking you all the questions, learning all. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Hope I haven't rambled too much.
Not at all. Thank you for listening to the Iris Prize podcast. I'm Lucy Smith, and you can follow us on all sorts of social media, and remember to tune in next time.